Physics by Aristotle, Book 2, Part 1. Of things that exist, some exist by nature, some from other causes. By nature, the animals and their parts exist, and the plants and the simple bodies, earth, fire, air, water. For we say that these and the like exist by nature. All the things mentioned present a feature in which they differ from things which are not constituted by nature. Each of them has within itself a principle of motion and of stationariness, in respect of place, or of growth and decrease, or by way of alteration. On the other hand, a bed and a coat, and anything else of that sort, qua receiving these designations, that is, insofar as they are products of art, have no innate impulse to change. But insofar as they happen to be composed of stone, or of earth, or of a mixture of the two, they do have such an impulse, and just to that extent which seems to indicate that nature is a source or cause of being moved and of being at rest in that to which it belongs primarily, in virtue of itself, and not in virtue of a concomitant attribute. I say, not in virtue of a concomitant attribute, because, for instance, a man who is a doctor might cure himself. Nevertheless, it is not insofar as he is a patient that he possesses the art of medicine. It merely has happened that the same man is doctor and patient, and that is why these attributes are not always found together. So it is with all other artificial products. None of them has in itself the source of its own production. But while in some cases, for instance houses and the other products of manual labor, that principle is in something else external to the thing, in others, those which may cause a change in themselves in virtue of a concomitant attribute, it lies in the things themselves, but not in virtue of what they are. Nature, then, is what has been stated. Things have a nature which have a principle of this kind. Each of them is a substance, for it is a subject, and nature always implies a subject in which it inheres. The term according to nature is applied to all these things, and also to the attributes which belong to them in virtue of what they are. For instance, the property of fire to be carried upwards, which is not a nature, nor has a nature, but is by nature, or according to nature. What nature is, then, and the meaning of the terms by nature and according to nature, has been stated. That nature exists, it would be absurd to try to prove, for it is obvious that there are many things of this kind, and to prove what is obvious by what is not is the mark of a man who is unable to distinguish what is self-evident from what is not. This state of mind is clearly possible. A man blind from birth might reason about colors. Presumably, therefore, such persons must be talking about words without any thought to correspond. Some identify the nature or substance of a natural object with that immediate constituent of it which, taken by itself, is without arrangement. For example, the wood is the nature of the bed, and the bronze the nature of the statue. As an indication of this, Antiphon points out that if you planted a bed and the rotting wood acquired the power of sending up a shoot, it would not be a bed that would come up, but wood, which shows that the arrangement in accordance with the rules of the art is merely an incidental attribute, whereas the real nature is the other, which further persists continuously through the process of making. But if the material of each of these objects has itself the same relation to something else, say bronze or gold to water, bones or wood to earth, and so on, that, they say, would be their nature and essence. Consequently, some assert earth, others fire or air or water, or some or all of these, to be the nature of the things that are. For whatever any one of them supposed to have this character, whether one thing or more than one thing, this or these he declared to be the whole of substance, all else being its affections, states, or dispositions. Every such thing they held to be eternal, for it could not pass into anything else, but other things to come into being, and cease to be times without number. This, then, is one account of nature, namely, that it is the immediate material substratum of things which have in themselves a principle of motion or change. Another account is that nature is the shape or form which is specified in the definition of the thing. For the word nature is applied to what is according to nature, and the natural, in the same way as art is applied to what is artistic or a work of art. We should not say in the latter case that there is anything artistic about a thing, if it is a bed only potentially, not yet having the form of a bed, nor should we call it a work of art. The same is true of natural compounds. What is potentially flesh or bone has not yet its own nature, and does not exist until it receives the form specified in the definition, which we name in defining what flesh or bone is. Thus, in the second sense of nature, it would be the shape or form, not separable except in statement, of things which have in themselves a source of motion. The combination of the two, that is, for example, man, is not nature, but by nature, or natural. The form, indeed, is nature rather than the matter, for a thing is more properly said to be what it is when it has attained to fulfillment than when it exists potentially. Again, man is born from man, but not bed from bed. That is why people say that the figure is not the nature of a bed, but the wood is. If the bed sprouted not a bed, but wood would come up. But even if the figure is art, then on the same principle the shape of man is his nature, for man is born from man. We also speak of a thing's nature as being exhibited in the process of growth by which its nature is attained. The nature, in this sense, is not like doctoring, which leads not to the art of doctoring, but to health. Doctoring must start from the art, not lead to it. But it is not in this way that nature, in the one sense, is related to nature in the other. What grows qua growing grows from something into something. Into what then does it grow? Not into that from which it arose, but into that to which it tends. The shape, then, is nature. Shape and nature, it should be added, are in two senses. For the privation, too, is in a way form. But whether in unqualified coming to be there is privation, that is, a contrary to what comes to be, we must consider later.